AI.
Yeah, this is fun. I don't know how it records it, so
It'll send you a note afterwards.
okay.
I mean, an email. And
It'll send
then,
me an email with the recording in it, or that it's recorded.
yeah, that is recorded, and then you can download it or whatever. I always used to download them to, yeah. Oh, well, there you go. Everybody is going to believe I just woke up.
Um,
Yeah, YouTube. There was the word I was going. All I could think of was Yahoo.
oh, Yahoo to Yahoo. That's so
Yeah, I'd go save him to Yahoo or have a Yoo-hoo. No, I don't know. Anyway,
that's so funny.
here's my coffee cup today. Because
I what's it say? Hope. Oh, I love it. That was actually I changed my
no.
oh, that's so funny. Mine's just a fancy, just a mug because I had to come leave the house because I had no service. Yeah, I don't know what's going on with the storm, but anyway, I will. We can
We'll
just upload this later.
I'm proud of us for pivoting though.
Yeah, like not just giving up. There's so many options to do this now.
Going to give us your questions, but um,
We could respond in the comments though if
you,
people want to leave comments later.
yes, please put your comments in the or your questions, concerns, comments in the comments.
Mm-hmm.
And we
You know
can.
what though? It'll be a little nicer because I'm going to now.
Mhm.
I'm gonna log in from my tablet and mute it and turn the video off, and I'll tell you why, because then when we talk about State Board of Education stuff, we could actually share our screen in Zoom and
Oh,
pull those lists up because that actually might be better. Um,
go back over to. Oh, but it's in the live. I need to turn that off, or we're going to be doing. Recording in progress.
there we go.
Um, that's cool. We're getting fancy. Um, I was trying to decide whether or not I thought people were being able to post questions in general, like if they were over on that other page, but I couldn't even get my page to open at the same time. So anyway, we can discuss all that later. Nobody wants to hear that on here.
Yeah, I don't know. More technical stuff. We probably should talk to like Alan or someone like that too about like
We could get a few lessons. I don't want to become a total technology person, but I
I
guess
have
I
no desire to be a total tech person, but I do want to share screen. I do love sharing a screen, period, like during meetings, because sometimes it's just easier to see it on the screen.
agree. And I like the idea of having a little bit of knowledge so that I can do better than this.
Well, like we did. I mean, we have enough knowledge that we were able to pivot quickly, so that's fun. Um,
And so we were talking about State Board of Education, and actually before State Board of Education, actually it was
Grapevine City Council.
yes, Grapevine City Council.
Yeah, so I
There,
wasn't able to like actually watch the whole meeting last night because power,
yeah,
and I had to kind of preserve that. But they did end up zoning and approving the new apartments. They're near Grapevine Mills.
they did.
So there is a Dallas not Dallas, Fort Worth Star Telegram article this morning. They covered it, so that was a really great way. But it is near Grapevine Mills. There was a lot of discussion about why they did it, and I'll let people watch that. I think that for our purposes for schools, that means more people over in North Grapevine, right? So it says the article, and like I said, I didn't get to watch the discussion, and I will go back and watch it, and we can drop anything in comments once we upload this. But 248 multifamily units. So that's going to result in some more kids in North Grapevine, I anticipate. It'll be 11 buildings.
It'd be problematic in that part of town.
Yeah, so I'm hoping that they're planning to hold on to Dove and reallocate some money to get it up to, I guess get it renovated.
Yeah,
So that is definitely, I mean, it's good news for us in general. We want more we want more kids, right? Like we want to increase our enrollment. So,
Mhm.
there was never, the schools were never half empty as we were being told. That was such a misleading message, and it's still a misleading message to say they're half empty. But bringing in more kids is going to be more kids at Dove and Silver Lake. Especially my understanding is that corner over by Grapevine Mills, actually those kids actually do go to Dove anyway because there's a lot of apartment complexes, so they couldn't house all of those kids at Silver Lake anyway, so those kids were being bused to Dove. So that would give Dove some
Right.
more students. So I'm hopeful that maybe we can, with some
Well,
innovation, we can use Dove as, I think someone told me once that the biggest impediment to starting new programs is space. Like you don't know where to house those new programs and how to do that. And so, well,
yep.
we have a place to house them. So, and we have new students coming in after these are built. So now's the prime time to start some kind of new innovative idea over in North Grapevine at one of those campuses and then have it ready when these families start moving in.
And the good news is we have some time, right?
Yeah. Mhm.
Because they won't build them overnight. That's good. So I mean, I don't want anybody to walk away from hearing this and think we're saying, oh, open Dove next year or the year after.
Right. 100%.
Obviously, and it needs to happen in a fiscally responsible way. But certainly, in the whole stabilization plan and the whole strategic plan and the whole long term plan, um, it I, I was about to say it does change the long term picture, but it doesn't really change it. We kind of knew this. Um, I think people were just not talking to the right people and not looking at all the right studies, because the city of Grapevine had always had a demographic study that was saying they anticipated growing. Um, but
It was
one
ignored. That's what
day,
happens though when we don't bring the cities to the table, right? Like I'm also so tired of hearing that argument that we asked Grapevine to participate and that they chose not to participate when that was 100% not what we're told this committee wasn't started to discuss school closures. So then you didn't ask the city of Grapevine to participate in a committee about school closures, if that's the truth. If you didn't intend for that committee to start talk about it, and what you asked the city of Grapevine to participate in, which my understanding was, I think Mary's on her morning walk and passes Bruno and says, the city manager, hey, we're gonna have a committee about our programs in our buildings. Would you like to be a part of it? That's not asking them, but whatever.
not official,
Um, you
and it
know,
really doesn't share the gravity of the request or the situation or the plan. So
no.
yeah,
So, but they did say they had apartments, even during this whole discussion in the fall, they said we've got zoning plans for some apartments that have been discussed. All these things, were said and just,
mhm.
it was so clear from September on that there was literally never any intent of actually pivoting and changing course based on information that was being put out there. It was just a
I
foregone
agree.
conclusion.
I agree. I'm to the point now where I kind of try to operate from the place of, um, it is what it is, and now we have an opportunity to, um, move forward with maybe a little more. The word that pops into my head is professionalism, and I don't mean that to sound quite as maybe uh, negative as that might be interpreted, because I don't mean it really negatively. I just mean there's a lot more to things than casual requests to chat with somebody. And, this is why you need official strategic plans and long term plans, and everything needs to be tied together. And this is what happens when, everything isn't handled that way. And anyway,
I think
it'll
it's
get.
also what happens when people don't even know better to know it's not being handled that way, right? Like when you don't have people in place
Yes,
or
the
you have
business.
your school board run by someone who doesn't have that kind of
Yes.
mindset, it's That's just a hot mess.
Yeah.
Um, hot mess is the best way I can describe it. But
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, so yeah, it is what it is, though. I do agree. Like we are where we are, and um, we just have to move forward. But like I said, we do have some time now. This is nice. Like we have some time.
Yep.
There's some plan. They can make some strategic plans with what that property looks like, and
Yep.
so yeah, that's all good news. All of those things sound like good news to me. More families for GCISD. There will be some naysayers that have just opinions on apartments and Grapevine, and that's probably a discussion for a different day or a different podcast. But either
Yep.
way, more families in Grapevine is good for GCISD. More time to make a strategic plan and be innovative and very intentional with what we use that property for and what we spend money on getting it up to speed and renovated or any repairs that are required. We just have time. So all of that just sounds like really good news. So
Yep.
I was reading it and again, other topics for different podcasts and different discussions about the approving the zoning and all of that, but it is approved. I'm excited to hear that. It sounds like it's really good for us. So I thought that was something we could,
Yep.
kind of just lead with, and it just shows like the importance of partnering with the cities. So I'm glad for all of these things.
And how important it is that um all of the, there's so many moving parts to all of these things, and how important it is to remember that most of these things aren't as simple as, a one topic issue or one thing. And I think that's one thing that we've struggled with over the last, I think, people in general probably struggle with. They want to bring it down to one little piece of something, one question, one, they want to be, it's about this or it's about this. And it's not, it's how all these pieces intertwine. Um, and there was something, I'm not going to remember exactly the details of it, nor does anybody want to hear me go down this path, but there was something we were discussing the other day where we were talking about like three or four different things, and every single time we kept coming back to, but that's how it relates to this particular issue in the district, and it was so funny because, all of a sudden you're just like, it all does tie together. But I understand that not everybody wants to have the in-depth background and amount of time it takes to really get into all of that. So I'm hoping that that's what this podcast can kind of be, is, it can become a place where people can come in, they can get the little bits of information that they want, and then if they want to go deeper, we'll be able to direct them to places where they can find that
Yeah, I love that. I like that. I think we were talking sort of about books and it led to curriculum and then it led to like people leaving and it really, yeah, when we were talking about that, it does all tie together and that really kind of does like you're becoming like a professional journalist because that really ties into like something else we want to talk about is the State Board of Education, right? And
information.
what's coming up with that and so how it does all tie together and when we got disconnected over on the other platform, we were talking about that meeting on Monday at the state board. No, it was with the Texas, it was
Yeah,
the
education.
House's Education Committee meeting
Yeah.
on Monday. But yeah, man, it does all tie together and you talk about funding and so these apartments will help us with our funding piece locally, but it's going to take some strategic planning across the state too to help schools. So,
Can I just say, after watching little bits of the House Senate committee meeting, um, and having watched them in the past, when I watched them 6, 7 years ago, I think I watched them from the perspective of like, oh, wow, like these people are experts. Now I've learned over the years they're not. Not saying they're not experts in something, but it is shocking to me how many people are sitting on those like the House Education Committee, and you know that literally are asking questions. There was one the other day where there was a mom there, and she was no. She was a mom. She was also a teacher in Fort Worth ISD. I don't know if you saw the clips for that one. And the question that was asked of her, she said, "Well, I'm so glad you asked me that. I would love to answer it." And she made a reference to the TEA in the state taking over Fort Worth ISD. And she was talking about how that had impacted her and the district and all these things. And at one point, the person questioning her literally said to her, "I'm sorry, are you talking about that happened this spring or last spring?" And I was like, I'm shocked. I mean, does the state take over that many school districts every year? That someone who is sitting on a House committee for education isn't aware of when Fort Worth ISD was taken over by the TEA? That that feels to me like,
Mhm.
and I don't know, you just all of a sudden you start to realize like the people making these decisions are not all that well informed either. I don't understand that. I don't understand how
Well, I don't understand. I do understand not being able to be an expert in every issue, but
you're
they
on.
sit on that committee. Like, this isn't like it was broad discussion in front of the whole House chamber. This was a committee that they
Right,
probably asked to sit on,
right.
and
It's
they have access to experts. If there is something, I don't know. I don't know a lot of things. I never pretend to be an expert in everything, but I would certainly go find some people to know about that. But Fort Worth, the not knowing the takeover, that is just, I mean, that's inexcusable. Like, a, I feel like they should be removed from the committee. If you don't know when one of the biggest school districts in our state was taken over by TEA, you should come off that committee. Like
that's
that, you've
no,
lost your right to serve on
right,
that committee.
exactly. Clearly, your area of expertise needs to be realigned to something else. Like
Mhm.
that's not it, and or you don't care. You
Right.
don't care enough to have stayed up on a basic briefing from your staff because, as you mentioned, they all have staffs. I can't imagine that a state takeover of a large school district shouldn't be one of the high points on a briefing before you go back into a session. So I was just,
Hmm.
and I could probably come up with three or four other examples from that particular one where I was like, wait a minute, what? So I bring that up because I think one of the things we're fixing to talk about is some of the upcoming state board of education things and opportunities for normal everyday moms to go down and talk if they want to or write a letter or whatever. And I think a lot of times I know for myself 6 years ago I would have been intimidated maybe by that, or I maybe would have thought, well, I don't know that I know enough to go down and think that I'm going to speak in front of a House committee or a Senate committee or, on education or a state board of education, open comments section. I don't think I know enough to do that. And now what I've realized is two things. One, we probably know as much, if not more, in some circumstances, as the people that are setting up on that committee. And therefore, it is our responsibility to show up when we can, to hold them accountable and to make them realize they need to know more information if they're going to make decisions on behalf of us and our kids. And the other thing that it's made me realize is even if I don't know as much as they do, we have a right to go down and, like whatever you do know and your passion for it, it's enough. That's, I think, what I want parents to know. And I think that's a little bit of what we've kind of seen here in GCISD over the last 6 to 9 months since the closure stuff came up is a lot of people used to think, they just kind of let school district stuff happen and they got their little bits and pieces or they asked a friend who to vote for or whatever. And they're starting to see that it doesn't have to become every day, hours and hours of following the school district. But you can get out there, get information, and stay informed in an hour or two a month, if that, and be in the know on a local and state level. And I think more and more people are going to start to do that politically I should say politically, you know what I mean? Like I don't mean politically Republican, Democrat. I mean politically in a groups of people coming together and advocating for public education in the state of Texas.
Well, and we have such a huge opportunity. This is, your comment, everything is intertwined. Is we have a huge opportunity in the next few months to make decisions that, you know, I know not everything is one issue. Not everyone is a public education voter, but if you want to be one type of voter, that's one huge area that impacts all of us.
Yes,
So there's a lot of things you may care deeply about. You may have strong opinions on abortion. You may have strong opinions on a lot of topics. One thing that underlies all of that, that it impacts everyone's opportunities, impacts our society as a whole, impacts our workforce and what we're looking at in the future, um, is public education. And so if you can be a one issue voter, if you can find one thing that really is going to drive all these other issues, it is public ed. And so we have a huge opportunity coming up to tell these people they work for us.
yes,
And that's always, even if you're not the expert on it, we do have desires and things that we expect of our public education system, things we would want from our public education system. And we've heard from a lot of people across the aisle about over the last 6 to 9 months about the lack of funding coming out of Austin. You have your chance now to vote for someone who did not do that. Right? Like, and you have your chance now to vote for people in the State Board of Education who are going to listen to parents, right? So, and that's across the state. Like your reps are up every 2 years, your house reps. So go out and demand them. I mean, we have a huge Senate race that would send a huge message as Lee Wamsgans. You can vote on a number of issues. There's no question that Lee has been instrumental in decimating public education across the state of Texas. And we have, as a community, the opportunity to send her packing for good, right? Um, Send her out. They kind of laughed off her loss in the special election as, oh, she'll be back in November. Not if we don't put her back. And she's not in Grapevine, Colleyville. We don't vote on her, but our neighbors do. And we have a huge opportunity there, but we also have a huge opportunity in our House election with the Armin Mazzani and Kate Brennan race. And Armin said at that the PT no, it was the Raise Your Hand Texas forum,
yes.
without question, he supported vouchers. It was an unequivocal answer.
He
Um,
very proudly said, I mean, he said, I proudly support vouchers and believe that
mhm.
everybody should have. So, yeah, like, I mean, come
So
on.
yeah, and then we have Kate Brennan folks here in GCISD who was really helpful. She came out, she used her time, she used her energy when she could have been working on her own race. She was helping us and on our school board elections. And so it's not a Republican or a Democrat issue. If you're going to complain about funding for state in the state of Texas for education, then you have the opportunity in November to vote for people who are going to fund it. And it can be that simple. You can be a public education voter. It is that simple. If you want to be a public education voter and you want to turn things around, then let's not have Texas be, what is it, 47th in the nation in public education across a number of metrics. It's embarrassing. But it does go right to, I guess a couple of things you and I had talked about, we want to talk about was the state board stuff, but also funding. And so I don't know if we want to talk quickly funding, because our June meeting, if we talk locally, our June meeting in GCISD is June 15th. I don't know if that seems a little earlier than usual, but probably not. So I guess in the next week or two, we'll probably have a board workshop, although maybe they're going to push out adopting the budget till after June, till we hire a new superintendent. Maybe the June 15th meeting will include a budget workshop in that meeting and they'll push it out. I don't really know what that will look like because it would seem
I
pretty
think
much sure.
the June 15th meeting has always been the date on the calendar. And I think, I mean, I am purely speculating here, but I think it's because this year we got out of school a little bit earlier, the way
Mhm.
the calendar that was voted on for 25, 26. We got out of school a little bit earlier and we go back to school really early, it feels to me like
It does feel
in August.
like.
And because of that, there is a 2 week window um, that the district really closes down. It's when even the admin people, and they usually
Mhm.
try to do it around July 4th. And a lot of times I think that that week happens, it varies whether the time is off in front of July 4th or after July 4th. And I think this year it's a little bit before because of the fact that um, so many things are starting. I mean, I know my kiddo is in high school and their back to school stuff is all July 30, 31st,
Oh
like their
well.
Mustang Nation and all that kind of stuff. So if kids are going back to welcome what is a high school version of Meet the Teacher the end of July, then teachers are back before that. And then, you know what I mean? Like all those
Mhm.
things
Well,
are
also, is it
spread out.
our
That way,
deadline?
yeah,
Do we have a deadline to adopt the budget of June 30th too, though, right? So,
right.
um, I mean, I guess I get that, but I guess I'm saying they typically I would see them like the first couple of weeks of June, we would have a budget workshop and then adopt it at the I feel like last year was June 16th, 17th, so a little bit earlier this year, but I they could still treat the June 15th meeting as a workshop. And that would, I guess, give the superintendent a little bit of time to get up to speed and then treat and then still have a special meeting after that to actually adopt the budget, right? So I was curious that might be what their approach is this year. I don't have that's pure speculation, no idea, but I just felt like it would be a little bit odd to we're hiring somebody on the potentially on the 15th and uh we've already adopted. We're
Another
adopted. Here's the budget you have to work within, right? Have fun. Um
Although I'm not sure if voting for them on the 15th and then on the 18th saying here's the budget is a whole lot different,
yeah.
but you know,
I don't
uh,
know. I didn't know what that'll look like, but we do know we're adopting one.
yeah,
And so,
and it's
everyone, I feel like I have all the parents I've talked to that we've talked about different things across things like transfer options. We've talked about the families that are leaving, which is numerous because of the school closures, the number of families who are pulling out and just packing up and going somewhere else to do something different. It's it is actually more than I thought. So just, as I feel like we're kind of in this holding pattern right now in GCSD because we're like, well, we're waiting for the superintendent to be hired so that he can come in. We have to adopt the budget. So we have all these things that are kind of on hold for June, and I kind of get that. But I was I think it was some elementary parents that I was talking with, and I said, I do kind of feel like that this board, the transfer thing, I think that they should just open it back up. Like if I had a wish list of things they could do or um go ahead and do that I don't think should wait until the new superintendent comes in, is that they need to talk to the administration that's there now about what kind of policies they want to have for transfers because the board does set policy and I do think they need to set a different policy because um I think that there are a number of families, if they would change the transfer policy, that we could retain. I don't think that I know that. I know that there's a number of families who have requested transfers and have just said, okay, well, they're refusing it. We're leaving. We're going to go next door. People are transferring to Northwest. They're putting in transfers to, oh my gosh, I've even heard people putting in transfers to Keller, which every family can do what they need to do. And I'm not going to judge that. I just was like, that's a risk in my opinion too, because they also are kind of in the same holding pattern we're in Keller right now. But we Northwest was one that I heard a lot because Northwest is growing. My son's doing Gazelle track right now. So we go to Northwest to Medlin they do track twice a week over by Medlin Middle School. And holy smokes, like their bond projects, we drove in that complex and I just thought, oh man, I mean, I know that they have land and space to build. I'm not trying to compare their situation to us at all, but wow. And they are offering a lot of things. Like I had an idea the other day, you and I were talking about like innovation, and I was like, oh, that'd be a great plan to innovate. And then I was asking someone else about it, and they're like, yeah, they do that in Northwest. It's just like, oh, well, okay. Um, but
Yeah.
yeah, so if I had a wish list, it would be, I do think that things that we really should go ahead and start moving on. The superintendent can kind of direct those a little bit as he comes in, but I think waiting and directing administration on a transfer policy is pretty crucial. I also think committees, like grabbing all these people who want to participate right now, grabbing them and setting the policy. If this is going to be a board policy that we are going to have transparent committees going forward, we are not going to operate in secret and we're not going to operate with handpicked friends of trustees anymore, then that is something they can set, and it can be the tone they give to this is the plan. They can give that tone to that new superintendent and say, this is how we intend our policies going forward for committees will be this way, and this is how we expect you to operate, right? So,
Okay.
those are a couple of things that came across my mind. Like if I have wish lists, I don't, retaining teachers, huge wish list still. I saw some of the teachers we lost this year, man. Elise Honey's name came across. I saw her change um, her profile that she's going next door to Carol, and that's just, man, what a huge loss for GCISD, huge loss for our sped families. Gosh, I was really heartbroken to see that at Timberline. Haley Galloway's position was eliminated. I'm not sure the what how that came about. She was a title funded position, and my understanding is we had increased title funds this year. So anyway, her position's eliminated. Incredibly involved teacher. She also served as PTA president for the last 2 years as a teacher at Timberline. So
Yeah. I
just
noticed when I went through the list and looked through the May list, the number of the two things that popped out to me in resignations this time, um, not just in the May, but the list since February, March, was as always, we lose a lot of people from special services, from SPED. Um, and I think that's not always just a GCISD thing, but I feel like it's more this time than it's been in the past. So I'm not sure. And that also might be something that, um, we should probably maybe look into a little bit and ask some questions. It's not my area of expertise, but I have, kind of a side connection there, of some people and just working with the 2E population through GT as well. There's a little bit of an overlap. So, but it feels particularly um, more this time than I have noticed in the past.
oh
Obviously,
yeah,
we
I hope that there's questions asked about what's going
yeah,
on in the sped team that is pushing
yes,
these folks around.
because I literally like I haven't had time to do it. I wish I had, and I'm not going to promise that I do, but I would love for somebody to sit down and go campus by campus, um, and tell me. I mean, obviously the district could do this, but they're not going to, and it's not worth me asking their time to do it. They probably could tell me off the top of their head. But I'd be hard pressed to think of a campus right now that has a person still on it. That's like, I mean, it is every single campus when you look through that has lost multiple sped people. Um, and I'm sure that doesn't even touch paras. The other thing that I noticed this particular time, and I wondered if this had anything to do with, just the anticipation or fear that had been kind of started early in the calendar year, like in the January timeframe, in regards to potential cuts in the district. I noticed a lot of fine arts people leaving. Band is huge this time. Like, I don't know what's going on there, but when you just go through the list for middle schools and high schools, and it's a lot of band people, a lot of choir people, a lot of, so I don't know. I don't know if that's, it could also be those are cuts happening across the state. You know what I mean? Like I've heard that as well, that other neighboring districts maybe have cut, so therefore positions are open because people are leaving for other things. I don't know, but that seems higher than I have seen it in the past. It also could be that we have focused so much in the previous couple of years on, I want to use the word cuts. I know our HR department would call it attrition, because they define HR FTE things. If a person leaves and they don't replace the position, that's attrition. I still say that maybe you didn't cut the particular person, but you cut the position once they left. Anyway, they so many of those have been classrooms teachers, that because those had already happened. These are the positions that we've had people that hadn't been impacted quite as much. And so it's just cyclical and it's starting, it's kind of moved on to there now because we have so many first year teachers in those other spots. I'm not sure. But that
That's
seems
interesting.
a little concerning to me. My biggest concern with those areas, the fine arts areas, is you don't just start. I mean, we'll find new great band people and new great choir people and new great. I don't doubt that they're out there. And probably we've already hired some. Um, but it takes a while for a fine arts teacher to build up their kid team. You know, it takes a little while. You lose people when you lose students when a lot of them get very connected with those uh, directors and that sort of thing. So anyway, that kind of made me so just I always come back to the staffing stuff when I think of wish lists. I haven't really been able to completely wrap my head around the staffing cuts that were shared during the May meeting. Um, obviously the GT lead one, we've already I've already hit on that. Nobody wants to ever talk about it again. Um, that I don't think the proper impacts of or the true impact of that is going to be felt until school starts when the parents get back on, their kids get back in school and they realize that's just not something they realize until probably about October, maybe even late September, since we start early this year. When it dawns
Well,
on, oh, wait a minute, my kid isn't going to GT pullout in quite the same way. It's going to feel different. And I hope the district does not choose to be disingenuous about not openly acknowledging that that's going to feel different.
I mean,
It,
I guess different doesn't bother me versus it is absolutely going to oops. It is I don't know why it's turning here. There we go. It is absolutely going to impact our title campuses where they're not getting the enrichment. And that's the part, like, we're not even going to know that for 2 or 3 years because your identification numbers are going to go down. And they're going to say, oh, look, we don't need one at this campus because look, our identification numbers are down. Well, duh. I said this the last time, duh, because you're not offering the enrichment to get those kids identified. And you've cut the testing. We're not testing every kid anymore. We're not evaluating them anymore for GT, which
I do think that what I was told in a GTAC meeting a while back is that they are looking at trying to implement something new next year to be able to return to that. It is not the same. It won't be the same as it had been. It wouldn't be what I would choose, but nobody asked me. Um, um, but I think it'll be better than what it had been last year when we did nothing for everyone. But it won't be back to all kindergarten and second graders being identified kind of thing.
that's
But
good to hear.
you're absolutely 100% correct that it's going to be an issue on Title I campuses. It's going to be issue with emerging bilingual kids, which is frustrating to me.
No,
Because
those kids continue to
yeah, short
get
end of
put at the end. Yes, I mean, you can come to our campus and I'll show you how, but
so that would be my wish list is, and I'm perfectly willing to expand my wish list beyond. I know people think I only talk about GT stuff. So I would love it if, as we go through the budget workshop, which I will go to and pay attention to and really look through what other, if there's any other opportunities found through revenue generation or through other potential cuts, that are not staffing related cuts, if there's any money that's freed up. Um, I saw something, I think this was in the education committee thing that was somewhere someone made reference to that for these districts that are finding out that they're not going to have as much money as they thought, these big huge ones, they were talking about cutting teachers and cutting something and and one of them said, and they're going to raise the temperature, like they're going to agree that all schools, instead of being at a 75 or whatever the air conditioning is set at, I don't know what the number is, they'll be at 76 or whatever, and I was like, huh. I do know that, at least in the past, GCISD has had a really wonderful. I remember Paula talking about this years ago, or a couple of years back. They have a program that they do with. It's not Encore, but it's something like that. It's one of the energy evaluation companies that comes in and makes sure that you're turning your lights on and off at the right time and what you're doing on the weekends and all those kinds of things. So that you maximize to the most efficient ways. But I was like, another degree. I don't know. I don't know if that saves money or not, but I'm like,
I remember them talking about the light thing, and it did. I remember it,
it's a
at
lot
least
of
like
money.
10 years ago, it saved quite a bit of money when they just made sure the lights were off if nobody was in the room. That was
But
crazy to me.
yeah, yeah, yeah. But I'm like, I mean, I hate to say because I don't want the kids. Sometimes in our schools, I know I remember my kiddo telling me about, we have no air conditioning in X, Y, and Z rooms, or we're freezing in A, B, and C rooms, right? So it's been difficult for certain parts of the units. So maybe kids and teachers would be like, do not say that, Mrs. Phoenix.
Yeah.
Um, don't put it up a degree. But I'm like, would it save us enough money to get back a few teachers? I don't know.
I You said
Everything's
something,
expensive.
you said you think your wish list was always GT, but I really thought your wish list when you started talking, I just heard it as staffing, right? Not GT. So just, you started as staffing, so I don't think that it's just GT's where you're most familiar, right?
Yeah. Um, and
But
another thing that I would say is my thoughts on next year's budget are very much informed by where we ended this year coming up into June. But I still don't hear that information. So I want to see where did we end up ending this year and what did we learn from that,
I still want to see where we ended up ending the last 2 years prior to that too, because we really never got a total on where the snafu left us. We've never got a total about this insurance risk
Yeah.
thing. We never have had an explanation, so I hope that comes out in the workshop at the very least. Not that I think board members watch this, but if you are watching it and you're a board member, please ask what our ending budget was for the general operating account for the last, I would love 23, 24, 24, 25, 25, 26. I want to know what those are, because it's not the number that's in the budget they adopted, the final budget, because they were still making amendments to it. So, I I don't know.
And I mean, transparency is always the word of the day, it seems, in lots of ways, which drives me a little crazy since it's something we're not so great at or haven't been great at. But there are certain topics that one could argue transparency can be a little more complex, or there's nuance to it, or context matters, not numbers.
No, yeah, numbers are numbers, right?
I do not understand how I'm just flummoxed over and over and over again how that comes out as not something. It's so black and white. The number is the number is the number. Yeah, and I get it. Uh, Public education budgets are complicated. We've put in our time. We understand the basics, and far more than the basics. And they are intentionally, for whatever reasons, not sharing numbers. And it is not because, oh, we just don't have that. Like I remember the years when the budget would be presented and they would say, well, we're still waiting for our runs from the state, or we're still waiting for blah, blah, blah from the tax, situation, or we're still waiting to see enrollment, or we're estimating. That is not what we're talking about here. Um,
You just said that about the runs from the state, and this makes me think, the Texas Tribune, I'll drop this in the comments when we share this article. I'll drop the link to this. They talked about the runs. That's that's how Dallas ISD and those districts said that the runs they got said
right.
XYZ, and then TEA said this is what TEA actually said you're getting more.
Mhm.
And then now TEA's, I think Dallas ISD said it's going to be
Million.
million, yeah, 28 million decrease across it's Houston, Dallas, and 5 other districts.
Did
Um,
you read though the thing I read, which I was like, oh my gosh. And this is big beyond, this isn't a GCISD thing, but it is an example for all of the people out there that maybe are like, oh, I don't know for sure if I want public ed to be my main voting issue. This lends to my issues with, gosh, I was fixing to use the word corruption, and maybe that's too much, but it feels like it to me that that the thing that they changed last biennium or whatever was in the past they would give out to all school districts everyone's runs. Like, they didn't give them to you. They
yes,
to
that's
them.
what I was going to say. Joe Strauss,
Yeah,
the Speaker of the
yeah.
House, when he was Speaker, he would give every legislative member the whole list for every district. Yep.
You would go out and look at it and blah blah blah. Right? You could look at yours. You could look at somebody else's. But this time around, the legislature, or whoever that is, that I don't know if that's exactly just the TEA, or my guess is it's the TEA in, I already say cahoots, but in connection with people in the legislature and whoever all is involved behind the scenes. A decision was made to only give school districts their runs, only give them access to theirs.
That was the Speaker. It was a Dustin Burrows decision.
But I'm sure he was. I'm
Mm.
sure he didn't
Either
make
way, it ends with him. If Dustin wanted to be transparent, Dustin can be transparent.
it true,
So,
true. And I think that sometimes what our communities do is try to just go after one person instead of understanding the connection to
oh, true.
Ed and how Abbott and how this is a concerted effort to to mess with the funding of public education, and the amount of time and energy and just messing with they do behind the scenes to
Hmm.
keep people, to keep school districts confused and unaware of what is happening is mind-boggling to me.
I think they said, I mean, you can read between the lines. Joe Strauss did it because he thought that that was the way it should be done. And I won't say if I'm a huge Joe Strauss fan, 100% better than I feel like each year the speakers been worse. Though I am a huge Pete Laney fan. I keep his photo next to my desk because I love me some Pete Laney, but different story. I thought he was the best speaker. But they said Dustin Burrows only gave them for their districts and their legislative district. Gave them the runs for the school districts in their legislative district. And the reason that they said that they didn't want to do it the way Joe Strauss did it was giving them all the runs is because then people would see one school district was getting more money than theirs. So they would vote against certain packages. And I was like, well, then that was all, if you read between the lines, a plan for Abbott to get his vouchers pushed because, right? So yeah, no, 100% it's all interconnected, but also Dustin Burrows, it's his house, and if he wants to own it, like, I feel like it ends. It's same as some decisions that happened in GCISD that other people were blamed for. That I thought the buck stopped with Dr. Schnautz, and I thought it was really. I personally thought it was really despicable that he let other people take blame for some of those things. And so the same with Burroughs, like, yeah, 100%. It was part of the bigger picture, the plan to defund our schools in general and to do it in secret by the state legislature. But Dustin Burrows let that sit with him. And, again, I go back to Pete Laney. I think he is, I'm embarrassed that he's from the Panhandle. Dustin Burrows, not Pete Laney. It embarrasses me for him to be from Lubbock.
Yeah.
Um, he's just, I mean, he's just screwing the school districts in the Panhandle with what he's doing, and it is super despicable. To me, school districts are the lifeblood. We talk about strong schools or strong communities need strong schools, and vice versa. And when you get to those tiny towns of 1,000 people, those schools are the lifeblood of the town. And for him to be doing what he's doing to them, all under political pressure because he doesn't have the backbone to stand up to it, is just incredibly despicable. I have no use for him. None. I hope he gets beat. If I ever move back to the Panhandle and he's still in office, I will put my energy into getting him out. Because it's inexcusable what he does. And it's harsh words, but it's incredibly inexcusable for him to treat those school districts in that part of the world the way he does. It's
Yeah. Not
it's
100%
disgusting.
sure they don't do it to lots and lots of the rural ones down in Central Texas too, though.
Same. It
Uh,
does. Same South Texas, all across, I mean, East Texas, all the rural school districts. But he just comes from a district or his legislative district. I mean, the biggest school district there is going to be Lubbock ISD in his school district, which has no comparison in size to any of these other large districts. Like, it is still quite small, and you can look at the number of very tiny school districts in his legislative district compared to other state reps. And I, I,
they look at public
it's
ed-
inexcusable
public
again.
education as if it isn't big enough to make us money, then it doesn't matter.
But what? Those kids don't even have an option. There's not a charter school option. I mean, I guess they have an online option. That's crap, especially when you live in a small town. That is, your social activity time is also limited. But they don't have a private school option. You could drive. I guess there's private schools in Lubbock. There's a private school in Plainview. You can drive 45 minutes to an hour each way to school, but that's not an option for a lot of those families if you wanted to go to private school. So vouchers were just, I don't know. But like you said, it is a concerted effort. And that kind of, we talked about, I guess, how it impacts GCISD. And then that goes into exactly what's happening at the State Board of Education in, I guess, 3 weeks. Yeah, 3 weeks, June 20, the week of June 22nd is the two big votes that are coming up. So I think that was the last thing we wanted to talk to everyone about today. It was just kind of, it's after the June GCISD school board meeting, but it's something that we should all be looking at and planning for now is what's coming up on June 22nd. I think the June 15th meeting in GCISD is going to take a lot of our time to talk about in that hour that we have. So if we're talking about State Board of Education, they're going to vote on the reading list that they have developed. And then they're also going to vote on their new social studies curriculum. And both of those are just huge hot topics. And the tidbit of information, if you think that this isn't part of a bigger plan, Patriot Mobile is sponsoring a bus from GCISD geographic area, not from people I mean, it will be people that live in GCISD, but it's sponsoring a bus from the GCISD geographic area to drive to the State Board of Education to testify at that hearing that week. So, they want us to stop talking about Patriot Mobile because they apparently didn't endorse in the recent election. But folks, they are still involved. They are absolutely trying to run the show, and they are using their money to send people there. So you'll hear some pushes from us about getting a group together to go down and do the same. We'll figure that out as things progress, but I think we just talk about what it is. And I guess the first one that you and I've talked about a lot is this reading list and bar
And
stuff.
move on at reading. Come on, people. I mean, you can't even, like, I just beg people to believe. you don't have to believe me. Go look at a little
I'm
bit.
going to share it. I'm actually going to share my screen right now. So,
So I want people to hear me when I say, even if you love the idea, let's just for the sake of this discussion or this portion of this discussion, let's assume that you believe that it would be great, and some people do, and that's okay, that you think it would be great to have Bible, Bible verses, Bible stories be a somewhat significant, even a small portion of our reading literature in our public schools. And therefore, Bluebonnet and its connection to how it weaves in the religious aspects or the Christianity aspects, is probably what I should say, because it's not religions in general, it's pure Christianity. Um, let's just say you love that. Okay, you love that. Let's pretend like right now I love that. Try to set that part aside and read it for accuracy. Like, I'm not saying go read it and be like, I'm not saying if you go read it and you go, I'm okay with using the story of the Good Samaritan, or something. Okay, maybe I am too. It's that it is so academically inaccurate. I mean, there are people on both sides of the aisle who are education people who are coming forward and saying, y'all, this is not good pedagogy. This is not good literature. This is inaccurate or not curriculum resources.
well, they're also not accurate from a religious perspective.
I
I
know.
mean, the versions that they're using, I will, a lot of people want to describe me as whatever they have in their mind about who I am and what I do. But I do start my day every day, and I have I'm 44 years old. So since I was in college, so for 24 years, every day I start my day and I read from my Bible every single day. I have a very well marked up Bible. It's the Bible I was given from my First Baptist Church when I graduated high school. And I've read from it every day, with the exception probably of just a handful of days that I don't get in there and read. And what they are promoting on these lists is not accurate. And that's really concerning to me because it affirms my fears that they're twisting the religion that I love, right? They are twisting it to fit their narrative. It is not what the Bible says in certain instances. It is number one, I mean, let's all be real, as we none of us know what the Bible really said be unless we read Hebrew. It is all a translation for any of us reading it. So number one, let's acknowledge that it's all translated by mostly men and mostly um, men that also had an objective. So we'll start there, that it was all translated. But so you have to just kind of take overarching themes from the Bible anyway to read them. But when you look at this list and think of what's on here, it's wow.
Wow.
I and it kind of goes back, I'll throw this out just because why not? We had this interesting conversation, you and I, last night, where we talked about just like the push of Christianity in every aspect of education, right? And just where it's just eroding its way in. And so I didn't understand it. The list in general is interesting, but I do encourage everyone to look at the biblical
Yes.
excerpts. That is one primary area that to look at and consider addressing. And then the other thing that really stood out to me when I was looking at it, and I'll just, like I said, I'll share my screen in a second when we're talking, but holy moly, the sparseness of it, it's not a lot. And so then, but
No.
then I was looking, like I'm looking at fifth grade. That's where my kid's going to be next year, fifth grade. So I'm looking at the list. It's quite a bit for them to get through in 1 year as a fifth grade group. It's, I mean, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17 items on the list. Some of them are excerpts, some of them are books. Okay, so it's 17 items. That basically is telling me then his teacher has no independent decision making on what he's going to read. Like there's no additional areas where they're going to be able to supplement. I mean, I guess they can supplement some, but it's pretty set forward, straightforward. This is what my child will be reading. This is what every fifth grader will be reading. So wow.
Yeah. And I would say that the majority, I didn't spend as much time looking at fifth grade. It's funny how we all go straight, obviously, to what our
Our
kids
kids.
are, right? But then we have friends with kids at different ages, so I get to hear from all of them. But the high school ones are, it's like two books and then excerpts, or maybe three if you're lucky in a particular high school year. It's crazy.
So I'm
Um,
going to share my screen. That way you can see what I'm looking at on fifth grade.
and then the other part about it is these stories are so, these books even, they're so old. Um, that part makes me just like, ugh, because you know, if you're not a person who loves reading, um, or you want to even take a person who loves reading and make them not love reading, don't make them read all these old things, right? Uh,
Hmm.
I can't imagine being a teacher trying to encourage children in their love of learning and their love of reading and just be focusing on Henry Wadsworth Longfellow, C.S. Lewis, Charles Dickens. I don't know that the whole
There's
list.
like not one new thing. I
Yeah,
was like, what about Wild Robot? It's a great book.
and I'm not saying that these aren't good and that they're not, but like on the high school list, I was looking at it the other day and I was like, I mean, come on, I graduated in the late 80s from high school in a small town in Kansas. If
I'll
my
go to the high school list. Let's
if
go.
my child is not reading something newer or more interesting than what I had access to, then we have a problem.
So
Uh,
they break it in English one, but there's only a page for each one. So
yeah, it's
I'm really bothered that we don't trust our teachers more to
yeah.
so where would you like me to go just to look at what you
Well,
would be?
I think I looked at the freshman and sophomore lists just
Okay, so
part
here's
of all
freshman.
done. Yeah, and Animal Farm, Antigone, Great Expectations, The
Read
Odyssey,
those. Read those.
Night from Ellie Wiesel is the closest thing I would say is new and interesting, and it is not new. But look at that. I mean, and yes, you need to read some of that, but I read the Animal Farm. I read Great.
No, this is exactly what I read. I'll be really honest, with the exception of the Bible verses that we were not forced to read, even in Hart, Texas.
I know.
Um, and then also like look here, so though they don't even give you like if you want to give somebody Eli Wiesel, and I'm very sorry if I'm saying his name wrong because he's an incredible. Why would you not have them read Night?
I
Like,
know.
I mean, this is probably great. Night is one of the most powerful things I've ever read in my life. And like literally the most powerful thing, but we just don't want to acknowledge that part of history anymore, it seems like.
Mhm.
So instead, we're gonna still include him. Oh no, it is on here. I'm sorry,
I did.
y'all. So
I did.
bad. It is Night. So
Yeah.
yeah, but then
Yeah.
it's followed by
Yeah.
the Book of Lamentations.
I
Yeah, I
mean,
don't know. Yeah, Night is incredibly powerful. I'm happy to see that there. And it
yeah.
is, I guess, it was not on the
That
list when
whole list,
I was in
that's the only
English.
one. That's the only one on that list that I'm like, I could see
Hmm.
getting something from that. Like the others, I'm not saying that I would get something from Animal Farm, but come on.
I mean,
I
I
mean,
got something from Animal Farm and Great Expectations. Totally got it. But
yes, but I don't know. I just wanted there
it's,
to
yeah, well, again, we're still reading the same things we read in the 80s and 90s. Like, there are new things out for our kids. And we want to talk about trusting our teachers. Well, that's not giving them this list and saying this is what you can use. Because, like, again, to get through all of this, I just feel like,
and I think the thing I would want to say to people is if you're listening to me and Rachel and you're hearing this and you're thinking, well, that's just your opinion, or that's just what you want, or that was good, or that got me to, we hear lots of people saying, well, that's what I did, and I graduated, and I'm a successful person, and I went to college, and blah, blah, blah. I think the thing that I would want people to understand is, it also ties to a kind of the things like this are what are going to cause our academic um, ratings to slide also, because the way that AP testing is done, the way that other types of tests that are about anything, and I don't need to say above level. I hate no, people don't like using that word, but anything that is about really thinking outside of the box and critical thinking and those types of things. If you were just giving them old things, their kids are not going to be able to do well on those types of exams. They need lots of different options because they're given prompts to write from on a test. And if they've only been given kind of the same old type of thing, it gives them the same. And when you're given a prompt that says, give four different, examples of XYZ, well, if everything you're reading is all old, it's really hard to give different in the context in which I'm not doing a good job of explaining why the questions are worded differently, but that does not get them a good score. And it's better to have a book that's like this and then one that's totally different over here, maybe one that talks about, has a really strong character story, one that has had a book that has something to do with someone overcoming some hardship, um something modern, something older, something, it needs variety, and that is not variety in my. But
It's, I just am surprised at the extent to which we're going to micromanage it. It's just, I mean, I stopped the screen share, but it was a lot. I'll put the link to that list that's in the in the chat, and then and then also, like I said, go look at the Bible verses. Like, I don't understand it. I'm not saying that I'm not saying there's never times to use a lesson from the Bible as literature. Like, I'm not ever saying that. I do understand. I just think, like, therefore this is required. Our kids have to learn each of these things from the Bible, and that's, I didn't see anything else from other religions on there. So it's pretty telling because there's other important lessons that we can learn from other religious texts that are not Christian religions. So,
and every Christian religion doesn't do things exactly the same way. I mean, I think that's one thing that it's easy for people to automatically assume that we're just, particularly in the climate these days in North Texas, at least, with the whole, we've been fairly not, not hugely impacted by it over here, but definitely out in Frisco in those areas with a lot of the fear mongering that they've had out there with Sharia law and all these Muslim thing, Islam, blah, 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 whatever. People automatically probably assume that that's kind of what we're talking about. And we very quickly forget, that um, there's other religions beyond that. And I mean, my family is Catholic. I'm cradle to grave, I do not have the exact same Bible that Catholics don't have the exact same Bible that everyone else does. Um,
mhm.
it's very similar, obviously, and it's, but my 10 Commandments aren't worded exactly the way the ones are that the state has put up everywhere. So that's an interesting conversation that I'm glad I didn't have to have with my kid as an elementary student, that she was in high school by the time that happened. So it's just people, I don't, that's the reason why, for all the people who say, don't bring these social issues into school and indoctrinate my kids. I'm like, yeah, exactly. I
And
agree.
don't do
And
it.
don't,
Yeah.
because you're bringing in social issues as well. So let's at least stop with the hypocrisy. Because I also don't want you teaching my kid about your version of Christianity, because I'm doing a great job. Thank you very much. Of
Well, yeah,
teaching
we will
her
all
about
teach,
religion. I
parent
can
rights. We will all teach our children how we want the religious aspects that our family values in our own home. I don't need the school to do it. Um, and, like I said, I wasn't, I don't know. I'm just gonna say it because we say this is unfiltered, so it's unfiltered, I guess. But
I will just tell you we're at 10 o'clock.
okay. I also was supposed to buy Chicks tickets in second, so I'm actually logging in so I
Oh,
can buy them. They go on sale at 10 for a San Antonio show.
like don't.
But I guess like we are pushing it and we don't want that in there. And then that goes right into the social studies curriculum stuff that they're pushing. And I will share a link to the April meeting. But when you go in and you listen to this exchange about slavery that they had, and one of the state board members, they talked about and oh, hi Crowley. Reba will be so jealous. She's under the desk, but I'm not gonna tell her.
Maybe the room had just started, and that is not his favorite time. He likes to be
Oh,
out when the group is going. It's scary.
I can imagine it would be scary too if the machine was moving around on the floor and I couldn't control it.
All right, keep going. What
I
did you?
think, they said that there was one of the state board of ed members said they didn't want it to reference the slave enslavement of Black people um, in that particular section because Irish people and Italians were also enslaved. It's just so I think I'll share some more information about the social studies piece and where that fine line goes. But then, like I said, we talk about this as like I guess a state board issue and all this infusing of religion in the curriculum. People, it is here right now in our school district. And if you don't think it is, it's absolutely being pushed on our kids. My son's at Grapevine High School football camp this week, and it is hosted by the Grapevine High School football team, and it's at the MAC. And he brought home his shirt, and I was like, I texted you this last night, just for full disclosure that you and I had this conversation, so people don't think I'm like, just throwing this out there. You and I texted about it, but so I like showed my husband though, and I was like, well, this shirt has two churches' names on the back of it. His camp shirt from the high school football program. And I said, I don't really know what I think about that. I guess these churches probably sponsor the booster club. And I appreciate one of the churches, and is 121 Church. I appreciate all that 121 Church does for our campus. Like I have always said, 121 Church comes and gives to our campus without expectation. Like it isn't a movement to proselytize or force religion on any single person at the Timberline campus. It is a movement to help our campus and make sure our kids have their basic needs met. And I think that's beautiful. But I was just like, I'm interested in this shirt, having this on here. Like, I guess if the Booster Club is accepting donations and they want to be listed as a sponsor and a list of other things, that's cool. So that kind of is where I started with it. And then it led me to like, well, then my husband was like, yeah, no. He was like, the counselors are wearing shirts at the campus say, I am his, HIS in capitals. I was like, I don't need my child. I'm sending my kid there to learn about football. I read my Bible every day at home. We belong to a church. I'm not sending him to Grapevine High School football camp to have them push their version of Christianity on my child. I was really disappointed in it. We paid money for him to be there. I'm, and then it led me to the Grapevine High School Instagram page that someone shared with me.
Well, not high school, but
Well, it says Grapevine High School Mustangs football or something on the page.
It's not the high school's page.
Oh yeah, the high school doesn't run it. I understand, but it is run under the name Grapevine High School Football.
That,
Um,
that's what I meant. It's
yeah.
specifically
Yeah.
football.
No, the district is not, the school district's not running it. I will say that. But it is the page that I guess if you go to the school district, if you go to the Grapevine High School football page, it links you to this Instagram.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, and like they're quoting Bible verses and stuff on here, and I was really, like I'm still obviously a little, I don't know if the word speechless is right because obviously I have a lot to say about it, but I don't know. It won't fly if my child's on the team at any point. I will not fly. We will not be, he will not have their version of religion forced on him because I do very much believe that there are certain versions, we just said that, different versions of the Bible. Um, I will not have any other version of Christianity forced on him, not the version that hates people, not the version that excludes people. And I understand if we took money from these churches, but you know who we chose to not take money from this year? An Islamic organization. We chose to turn their money down because we didn't want to host the Islamic Games this year, even though we've done it for the last 2 years. We did choose to pick which religions we're going to take money from and which ones we're not. It bothers me a lot. It really does. I said he's there. My husband's there with him, so I know that there's not any, I guess there's not preaching going on because he would pull him out. But I just was I was a little flabbergasted with the shirt. I was like, why is this on a camp shirt? Like I would get it if they're sponsoring the team and they have a booster club shirt and they're one of the sponsors and you list all the sponsors, cool. I get that. I just don't understand it on the camp shirt. Like we paid for the camp. I'm presuming our fees paid for the camp shirt, our
Well,
money that we put in.
my bet is, and this is where I mean, I think this is where I wish more people would just put some thought into it. They probably don't think it through the way that they should if they were really coming from a if they're coming from a perspective of we're just trying to, you know, do the best program that we can do, then they should donate the money without the logo on it. And my bet is that the most of the sports camps that are held over the summer are held by booster clubs that's their fundraiser, right? So the money that you pay, the coaches and the kids that are there running it are donating their time. And the money that you pay goes to the booster club to offset other things throughout the year. It's a fundraiser for them. And
100%.
so then they get everything else donated. So they probably got the shirts donated by having those churches pay for them to print all those shirts. And maybe they
Mhm.
went to Chick-fil-A and got them to donate lemonade and tea for a break, or I don't know what else there's getting to
Right.
be.
Yeah, I don't either.
So that they covered all of their expenses, is what my guess is. So that the registration fees the parents are paying goes 100% to um
To the
fund.
booster.
But still, I think
The
that's an example though of where
The Bible says you do your good deeds in secret. It does not say that you do them for the attention. So if these churches are doing it, and again, I have a lot of appreciation for 121 Church. You don't need your name on the shirt. If you're doing it because you think that the football program is a great program and it's a team building experience for these kids, then we would love to continue that and we would love to support these shirts for these kids so they can go. Um, we're
and for
not even making it available though. I mean, it's not like there's scholarships for kids who can't afford the camp. So you're making it as it is a fundraiser for kids who can afford to go to the camp. And but again, you do your good deeds in secret. We don't do
right. Well,
them.
and I would argue that your what you should be doing is telling your people at your church that that's how you're spending their money,
Yep.
right? So that you can say, look, this is really fantastic. And we want you to know what we're doing with it. And then you also could put it on the Booster Club website or Facebook page, whatever, so that your booster clubs know, these are
These are the places that are supporting us and making these things happen for us. Yeah, I agree with
you're appreciative. But no,
supporting the groups that support us, but
but when you take it to the step of it being out to the people, it didn't have a choice in the matter, so to speak, which are the children that are just coming they believe they paid the $150 to be there or whatever, right? And they came for football. um, uh,
It's,
that's
I
where,
don't know. Like I said, then this morning I thought about it and I was just like, but we did turn down, and I get not turning down money, but we did. We were willing to turn down money from an Islamic organization because people have raised a fit, even though they have held their games in GCISD facilities for at least 2 years prior to that. This year, their money's not something we wanted, but we will take it from Christian churches and put it on a camp shirt for kids that are first through sixth grade. And I don't know. That was low, I have still have to keep thinking about this just because it was just really, I like the whole circle, like where it led me down this circle of looking into things. I thought, this is just icky. I mean, just that's the best word I have for it. It feels icky. Um, I don't know. There's a lot of things about it. I will say though, my kiddo also did go on a positive note since that was a complaint. He went to the Colleyville Heritage tennis camp last week. He's doing all the sports camps this summer, so we're supporting all the booster clubs apparently at GCISD. But he went to this Colleyville tennis camp, and we don't really have enough good things to say about that. So I do want to leave on that positive note. It was just if you have a kid that wants to do the tennis camp, the Colleyville Heritage Tennis Camp, just incredibly well run, incredibly great coaches. The kids that were showing up, his coach ended up being the instructor. She was named the GOAT of the camp. She was the greatest instructor. She was great. And the coach that was there for the program was really great. And so, like I said, I just, when we're talking about religion and all of that, that's just, it all kind of came full circle to me. I was like, this isn't a state issue of them pushing it on, like we're doing it here. And I just don't remember. I mean, I know that there were organizations growing up. We had, events that churches sponsored after football games that if you chose to go, it was your choice. We had SCA when I was in school. I know they have Young Life here. All of those things that were things you're choosing to do. And I guess we're choosing to participate in the football camp, but certainly didn't know that there would be Bible verses on things that were part of the football camp or church names on things. I don't know. I don't know what I think about it, to be honest. I do know what I think about it right now, but I probably need to think on it more.
yeah. Well, in the meantime, I think folks
Yeah.
can take a look at the State Board of Education things. Be prepared if you have time on your calendar to pop into the June meeting. If not, we'll see you on the morning of the 16th for
16th.
the rundown.
Yeah, and then we'll share information because there's ways to on the state board. There's ways to comment, to submit your comments online. There's ways to go comment in public. So we'll kind of be pushing all of that out over the next few weeks because I think that's important.
And I would say too, I mean, I want people to want to go in person. I want people to respond online. I want people to do all that. But if none of those work in your summer schedule, not giving you an easy out here, but it is true that for a lot of people it won't work in their summer schedule. Just telling a friend about it is also impactful. Just letting them
Hmm.
know that, to go take a look at it too, because then that's one more person that maybe will comment. And just raising awareness. I think that's my big thing is I want people to raise awareness and have a little bit more facts and truth behind the things that we talk about. And that's my hope in doing this podcast is, you know, we talk a lot in GCISD about our school board and all these other things, but there is so much more behind all of it, good and bad. And my goal is to put a little bit more meat on the bone, but not in a hopefully way that belabors it to such a degree, you know. I just I want truth out there, facts.
Yeah, I agree.
So
Okay.
there we go. Happy summer, y'all.
Yay, happy summer. I
Kind of
hope y'all have a good week.
today to see are we still being forecast for
I
yeah.
don't know.
Today's supposed to be nice, but they're still showing Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday.
Rain?
Yeah.
I
But
haven't even looked at
like
it.
55%, 60%, 80%. So I don't know. We might still be looking at that.
There's a difference though for me, I guess, rain and what we
Yeah.
had last night. Yesterday was like, ugh.
Well, my plants are a little overwatered right now, I will say. I try to buy hardy summer plants for my gardens that are, they'll survive in the 100-degree. They do not like this crazy rain. Their little root systems are going to rot out. So I need to go pull some of them off their hanging things to anyway, nobody wants to hear about my garden, but
I'm not logging us off because, like we have technical difficulties, so I'm trying to make sure that it's recorded. I'm logged into the thing. Before I log us off, I was like, I see it in here though. I do see it. It says it's processing it.
I
So
don't
yeah,
know.
it
It's
looks
like,
like it's recorded. Okay. Yeah. I don't know what we do with it next, but I'll put it on YouTube soon,
yeah,
sometime today.
yes, sometimes.
Yeah, I hope your plants are probably mine didn't I actually intentionally didn't water them at all over like a few days, so they got dry from one rain. Um, but I didn't know we were gonna have days of rain. That's gonna be it's good for the yard. I guess I don't want to complain. We need rain, so
I know, I know, I know.
it's hard to complain about it, but man.
Mother Nature is doing her thing, but
When you grew up in Kansas, did y'all have horrible weather there? Like same
oh,
was it like Tornado Alley?
when
Yeah.
I grew up, it seems like it's a little more Oklahoma, which I think is
Hmm.
change in the weather patterns, with climate change. But Kansas was the big tornado place. I mean they still have them, but not like they did when I was a kid. So yes, we summer storms were quite common, came out of nowhere, and yeah, the wind gets whipping up across those prairies, and yeah, lots of
Yeah, I was
but,
just thinking about that because I know y'all got cold weather, but then I was like you said, I always see it go through Oklahoma. I
nowadays it's
mean, the panhandle of Texas is just like we're all that tornado alley, like just straight up, right? But then I was like, oh, I wonder what Kansas is like. Because y'all
very
still have pretty extreme temperatures in the summer, right?
yes,
Yeah.
yes, just as much as here, to be honest. I mean, my my hometown is very southern Kansas. It's not that much over it's like an hour over the border from
Hmm.
Oklahoma. Um, but my brother's family all lives in Lauren, in northern Kansas, so up by Kansas City area, and it's the same. So
Oh,
yeah,
that's interesting. Okay. Well, I will upload this for everybody. Thank you for doing this morning.
no
I feel
problem.
like I see you more. I love doing this because now I just get to chat with you.
No, I know, same
So
here.
nice.
Everybody else is like, seriously, what are you people doing? So,
Okay.
uh, wait a minute, huh?
Yeah.
Uh, somebody's sending us something. They win the Pulitzer.
Oh, I saw. Yeah, the Grapevine. That's actually kind of big. They've been nominated for the Pulitzer on the Grapevine podcast. Oh, my husband says the track coach is really good at Grapevine High School since I was complaining earlier. I always defer. I played sports in high school, but my husband's like sports IQ is off the charts. He's a naturally good athlete, not just as my husband, a naturally good athlete. Like he still, I think, could beat Justice. Like he's not got that point where Justice has um where Justice could beat him yet. He's still not got there. He's probably not just a few years off, and then Justice will probably be able to beat him. But he is to the point where I think beating Justice in a couple of years will like he will like hurt the next day when he wakes up from having to like get up that hard. But yeah, he's talking about the track coach at Grapevine High School. He said it's pretty good. So that's I'm not dogging on the people. I just the in general infiltration into our society of all these beliefs.
Well,
Yeah.
I would say that I know there's a portion of our community, it's probably a large portion of our community, who love seeing the kind of intertwining the idea of youth sports and team building, sportsmanship, and kind of a faith or religious perspective altogether. And kind of that whole building a good adult. It's not all about winning; it's about being on a team and this sort of thing. Um, they and there are overlaps in some of that messaging. Um, but I will say that when you have a sports team that has this is my experience, when you have a sports team that has a very, very strong outward public focus religiously, it seeps into the classroom as well. Because minus the head football coach in GCISD, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, anyone who watches this, I believe only our two head football coach positions are the only ones that it's a coaching is their only part of the job. They do not also teach a academic class. I will just say that my personal experience, we'll leave it at that, is that the people who are strong into the religious push on the sports team might also do it in their classroom. That has been my experience.
That's just so, I don't know. I've never.
And is back to my concept of hypocrisy, right? Like if you need me to meet you somewhere about indoctrination, because I don't believe that it was happening in the ways that some people in our community say it was happening on issues they struggle with that they believe are parent choice and parental decision making things, then I need you to meet me on the same level for everything else. So
Or
if
I
you're
mean, yeah, if you don't want us to talk about the issues that, yeah, were important to you, I need you to not be pushing Christianity on our kids at school.
or
It's
your
pretty.
right. So it goes
Mhm.
both ways.
It does work both ways. I agree. I
Have
lied. It wasn't the nomination for the Pulitzer. I misread. We were saying if they were nominated. Sorry, I misread.
all righty.
Okay.
Rest of the week.
Yeah. I'll see you later.
Week of the 22nd, folks. We'd love to see people. I think a trip to Austin would be fun.
I do too. I was gonna wait and see when we figure out when they're gonna actually be doing these things, and we could plan a day. But yeah,
Alrighty.
the Patriot Mobile will be there. We should be there. Okay.
Bye bye.
Bye.